some of these kings that did so good for a season, like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years they did good, and then they got completely stupid and ended bad. That's like the absolute worst mistake to make, is to create tremendous, if I can call it revivalist or reformation momentum in a nation, and then in the final stages of life just get dumb and do crazy things. Solomon was such a great leader, a great man, but his latter days were so poor because of alliances that he made, and he ended up opening things up, idolatry for Israel. It took 300 years for them to get freed up, delivered up. And what happens is some of these kings, they just did that. They just had great stretches and bad stretches. And one of those guys this morning is Jehoshaphat. And he came, what we have now is we have Israel now is divided. We have Israel, the bulk of the tribes are called Israel, and then Judah is the other part. And they've broken off into two separate nations now. And Judah has fallen, like Israel, has fallen into idolatry. They're worshiping false gods. The stuff that's going on is horrendous. Jehoshaphat becomes king, and he starts to bring about a reformation. Now, these kinds of lessons should stand out to anybody who has any interest whatsoever in citywide transformation, nationwide transformation. These are the prophetic lessons that show us patterns for how God works. They're not legalisms, they're not laws, but they are principles that show us, listen, this happened, this happened, this happened, this was the result. And the Bible is filled with these prophetic illustrations, if you will, trying to summon us into a generation of reformers. I believe with all of my heart that this is a generation of reformers. And so when I read stories like this, that's what it does to me. It stirs up that reformational passion in me to try to look into see. And so we'll just look at a few things because time is brief, and just because time is brief. So let's just move on while I still can. All right, verse 3. The Lord was with Jehoshaphat because he walked in the former ways of his father David. That is such a huge, pregnant statement. How many of you remember reading about the kings in Israel, and it would say that this one did well, but not like his father David? How many of you have seen these phrases? They're all through Chronicles and 1st and 2nd Kings. David was the high point of Israel's life. To this day, he is at the head of the golden age of Israel. David's life was so significant that Jesus, the Son of God, will be called the Son of David for eternity. That's stunning to me. Stunning that you could have that kind of a mark. You can have that kind of a devotion to God that you so win his heart that he calls his own son after your name forever. Go figure that one out. All right, so look at verse 3 again. Now the Lord was with Jehoshaphat because he walked in the former ways of his father David. He did not seek the Baals, but sought, and that's a false god, but sought the God of his father and walked in his commandments and not according to the acts of Israel. Therefore the Lord established the kingdom in his hand, and all Judah gave presents to Jehoshaphat, and he had riches and honor in abundance. And his heart took delight in the ways of the Lord. Man, there's phrases like that you just got to underline. They're just too rich. His heart took delight in the ways of the Lord. Stop right there for a moment. His heart took delight in the ways of the Lord. The Bible makes a distinction that needs to stand out to us. The distinction is this. Israel was acquainted with the acts of God. Moses was acquainted with his ways. A distinction between the acts and the ways of God. The acts, that's what he does. The ways, that's his nature. Whenever you have a revelation of an act of God, you have an invitation to discover his ways. Whenever you have a revelation of his ways, you have an invitation for divine encounter. Many people can applaud the acts of God.